Okay, everyone, welcome to the conference with Le Cercle des Langues. I am Chanel and I will be taking you through this evening's conference. So we have an incredible topic to speak about, and that is how to talk about art. This conference is level B1 to level B2. So the conference will last for 25 minutes. And we will have the last 5 minutes for you to ask questions, for you to make any comments about the conference and about any experiences that you would like to share with regards to art. After the conference, you will be sent the email with the conference in PDF. So that gives you the opportunity to learn some of the vocabulary and how you would use certain things that you learned from the conference. So let's have a look. So in today's conference, we are going to look at 4 topics. We are going to look at the types of art that you can find. We are going to look at art and culture. So art and how it relates to culture. We are also going to look at artistic preferences. So what do you prefer? And then for the last part of our conference, we are going to look at my favorite artwork. So we are going to speak about your favorite artworks. So you can already begin to think about some ideas that you would like to share with regards to your favorite art. So let's begin. So with the introduction, we are going to talk about art and its definition. Just a quick reminder that I'm going to mute everyone for the duration of the conference. I will unmute everyone, or you can unmute yourself when you would like to ask questions. Okay, let's go ahead. So, the definition of art. So, art includes a diverse range of human activities involving the creation of visual, auditory, or performance artifacts that express the creator's imagination, skill, and emotional experience. So when you think about art, what you are thinking about is the expression. Art and expression go hand in hand, and you can express yourself through different forms of what we consider art. Art is often appreciated for its aesthetic, symbolic, or communicative qualities. In addition, it has been a fundamental part of human culture throughout history, serving as a means of personal and cultural expression. So now we are going to look at types of art. So art is incredibly diverse, and various forms and genres have emerged throughout history. So here are some major types of arts. So we talk about visual arts. So visual, the things that we see. And when we talk about visual arts, we speak about painting, we talk about drawing, we talk about sculpture, we talk about printmaking, and photography. Personally, I love painting, but everyone's preference for art is different. Okay, so these are the kinds of visual arts. Why do we call them visual arts? Because they are things that we see, we admire through sight. Okay, painting, drawing, sculpture, printmaking, and photography. We then look to performing arts. And when we look at performing arts, we are talking about theater, we are talking about dance, we are talking about music and opera. So anything that requires a physical performance will go under the category of performing arts. And when we say music, we are talking about instruments as well. So even an instrument on its own will be considered performing arts. We then look at literary. Literary, that is literature. So books. The next category, they are called applied arts. And with applied arts, we get architecture, we get fashion design, we get graphic design, and industrial design. Often people would not think that applied arts would really be linked to the art genre, but over the years, we have seen people's expression through the infrastructure, through buildings, through architecture, and it is quite impressive. It is quite beautiful. So applied arts, you've got architecture, fashion design, graphic design, and industrial design. The next we get is decorative arts. And the decorative arts includes ceramics, textile art, glass arts, and conceptual arts. So I think we could also include mosaic, which would probably go under the glass arts, but that depends. We also find incredible street art. So whether it is graffiti, whether there are pictures that are painted, these are known as street art. And there is a beautiful quartier, there's a beautiful neighborhood in Marseille where you can see murals that have been painted on the walls, where you can see graffiti. And it adds to that expression of street art, that genre of street art. So now we are going to open the floor to you. C'est Brigitte, Faustine, and Hubert. If you could please put in the chat your favorite form of art and why. So we are going to read it to each other. So for me, one of my favorite forms of art, I would say, is painting because of the use of color. So that's the one thing. We will talk about the use of color. I would talk about painting because the use of different painting techniques. So this is my favorite form of art, my favorite type of art. So please do share with us, put in the chat what are your favorite types of art and why. So Hubert shares with us, one of my favorite kind of art is music because I like to play some guitar and piano. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to share their favorite type of art? So Faustine, one of my favorite forms of art is street art because there are various forms of art in the street. This is true. So from sculptures to paintings to graffiti, absolutely wonderful. Bridget has shared, also for me, I prefer painting to sculpture because it is easy to appreciate. That is very, very beautifully said. Sometimes when I look at a painting, I really admire, like I said, the use of color, and sometimes it's easier to appreciate. So thank you, Bridget, for sharing your input. So now we're talking about artistic preference, which, as we know, between different people, preferences are different. And when we talk about art, the definition of art could be different from one person to the next. So what is it about the art that you like? So for example, as it has been mentioned, art is a diverse and expansive field with various styles that evolved over centuries. Take a look at these styles and characteristics. So we've got 4 kinds of paintings or prints, depending, in front of us, and you can see a different kind of art. You can see a different use of technique, a different style of art or painting. And let's look at the first image. So what do you notice in the first image? We've got a realistic painting but we've got depth of shadow, we have depth of color, and strong light and dark contrasts, which really adds that depth to the image. We can see that it is a portrait, but it is a portrait full of emotion, full of emotion. So because of that dark and light color, we have a strong sense of emotion that one sees in the painting. But when you look at the second, you have more of it's not really a hyper-realistic image, but its use of color and its use of light and shade is quite beautiful. And if you look at your third image, you've got more of a slightly abstract kind of image of the faces and how they have portrayed them next to different kinds of color, which gives you a completely different kind of emotion. And then you look at the fourth, which is very similar to the third painting. However, you've got a play on the shadow of the face. You almost have a slight addition of realism, but also abstract. So all four of these give you a different emotion, and it is also different styles. So let's look at this in more detail. So you've got realism. Realism seeks to represent the world as it is, focusing on accurate depiction of subjects with attention to detail. So in our first image, we have realism. We have the true to form. And if we go back, we notice how the outline of his hands, his face, his cheekbones, you have that realism, you have truth to detail, which is incredible. Impressionism, which is our second. Impressionism emerged in the 19th century, emphasizing the use of light and color to capture a moment in time. And I know everybody knows this artist, and he was an impressionist painter. And then we look at number 3, abstract art. Abstract art departs from realistic representation, and it focuses on shapes, color, and forms to convey emotions and ideas. So you can see 3 different styles, 3 different representations to evoke 3 different emotions or different kinds of emotion. We then move on to Cubism. Developed by Pablo Picasso and George Braque, Cubism breaks down objects into geometric shapes, presenting multiple perspectives simultaneously. It's a form of abstraction that revolutionizes the way artists approached representation. So you can imagine, for the time, Cubism was almost groundbreaking because we move away from this hyperrealism to a more abstract, where we're breaking images apart, which invokes a completely different emotion. We then have another type or style of art, and that is surrealism. And surrealism explores the irrational and imaginative aspects of the human mind, dreamlike and fantastical. It often incorporates unexpected juxtapositions and symbolism. So when we look at that word, juxtapositions, we are looking at the act or an instant of placing 2 or more things side by side, often to compare or contrast. So if we go back to the first slide, we can talk about the juxtaposition of the images next to each other. Okay? Let's continue. We then move into the expressionism part of it, which focuses on conveying emotion through distortion and exaggeration of form. We move on to the pop art movement, which emerged in the 1950s. So all of us remember Andy Warhol. He was very famous for his pop art, and it incorporates popular culture and mass media imagery. It often employs bright colors, bold shapes, and a sense of irony or commentary. We then look at minimalism. So minimalism simplifies the forms using basic geometric shapes and a limited color palette. So we are then going to discuss art and culture. And remember, before, when we talk about all our different art forms, it is really very personal. And what one person likes, another person won't. So for me, I really love expressionism, but I am also a fan of realism and impressionism. I am not really a fan of pop art. So it depends. It depends on what your personal preferences are. Let's go into art and culture. Art has a profound impact on how societies express themselves, and it serves as a mirror to the values, to the beliefs, and the experiences of a culture. Different forms of art, such as paintings, sculptures, literature, and performances, contribute to the cultural narrative. So when we talk about vocabulary related to art and culture, we need to talk about expression, okay? Because it is important the way the individual expresses themselves or how the culture expresses themselves. We can also talk about traditions. Can the art depict traditions? So for example, if you look at New Zealand and you look at the Maori tattoos, it is almost a form of art. And it is the way they depict it and the way they create it. It's quite beautiful, for example. We then talk about heritage. Is it part of your heritage? And creativity is also a word that is related to arts and culture. We talk about artistic aesthetics. So aesthetics, the way that something looks. We talk about the symbolism. And we then talk about identity, one's identity as it relates to the art and the culture. What is the interpretation of the art piece? So what is the art piece trying to say? So this we refer to the interpretation. Is there a ritual? Is there a way to paint? Is there a ritual in its symbolism? What are we looking at? Is there diversity? Diversity, is it a masterpiece? Does it include folklore or harmony? So these are words that we could find when we look up art and culture. So you will find a lot of these expressions in the text that I'm going to read, and you will understand better how we use it to talk about art and culture. So throughout history, art has served as a tool to express the joys and afflictions that human beings have experienced. During periods such as the Renaissance, colonization, Enlightenment, Romanticism, Naturalism, Modernism, and contemporaneity. Therefore, the value and interpretation of art has a different and subjective perspective in each culture. This is beautiful because what it shows us that to the culture themselves, it could be seen as art. However, to someone outside of that culture, they would not particularly understand it. And that is why it's important to remember that it is subjective. So art in France. So Claude Monet, born in 1840 to 1926, a key figure in the Impressionist movement, his innovative use of color and light had a profound impact on the art world. Louis Bourgeois, he was 1911 to 2010. She was a contemporary artist, known for her powerful and often emotionally charged sculptures. Bourgeois explored themes of feminism, family, and the subconscious. Henri Matisse, 1869 to 1954, was a prominent figure in the Fauvism movement, and he focused on vibrant colors and a focus on expressing intense emotion, and is known for his innovative use of color and form. Art in the UK, we have artists such as William Turner. He was born in 1977 and he died in 1851. J.M.W. Turner, often referred to as the painter of light, was a prolific landscape painter. Francis Bacon, he was born in 1909 to 1992. Bacon was a post-war British painter, known for his emotionally charged and often disturbing figurative work. Damien Hirst, who was born in 1965, is a leading figure in the contemporary art scene. Damien Hirst is known for his provocative and conceptual works. We also find something that dates far back, and that is indigenous art. First such example is the Norval Meursault, 1932 to 2007, and she was a prominent Canadian artist, played a crucial role in bringing indigenous art to mainstream recognition. The second, Emily Kame Ingware, 1910 to 1996, an Australian Aboriginal artist from the Utopia community, is renowned for her abstract and expressive paintings. So you can see some of the examples at the bottom. Jim Denomy, born in 1955, is a contemporary Ojibwe artist from the United States. His work often addresses issues related to indigenous identity, history, and contemporary social and political issues. So now we are talking about my favorite artwork. Well, yours. And when we talk about this, we talk about vocabulary that you will see. It's contrast, harmony, unity, emphasis, rhythm, scale, proportion, perspective, foreground, background, form, lines, color palettes, texture, light and shadow. And just next to it, you have the translations in French. So ways to express your point of view. You can say the composition of this artwork is captivating. Captivating is a beautifully rich word that helps express that you are really taken with the painting. I appreciate the artist's use of contrast. It adds a dynamic and striking element to the painting. The color harmony in this piece creates a soothing and pleasant atmosphere. The rhythmic repetition of shapes gives it a lively and energetic feel. The artist played with scale effectively, creating a sense of grandeur. The proportion of the elements in the sculpture is perfectly balanced. The clever use of perspective in this drawing adds depth, making the scene come to life. The foreground, the intricate details in the foreground of the photograph enhance the overall visual experience. Taking into account what you have seen during the session, answer these two questions. What is your favorite type of art, and what is your favorite artwork or artistic style? So this is something for you to contemplate, to think about when you are talking about your favorite artwork. So, thank you for joining the conference today. Do you have any questions, or would you like to share any thoughts on artistic styles? You may now unmute your microphone if you would like to share. No? So everyone is happy? Wonderful. So as I have said, the conference will be sent to you via email, and you can have a look at that vocabulary. So when you would like to describe a painting, or when you would like to talk about the emotions that move you and how you feel about a painting, you are then able to use these words or these sentences to speak about the work in a way that expresses your feeling clearly and with enough emotion. So thank you everyone for joining me for this conference this evening, and I will see you next week. I'm very glad, Hupe, that it was interesting, and I hope that the vocabulary will help you. So thank you everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.